So they want you to work for... Welcome to my photography business channel. My name is Rosh. This video is one out of 31 videos that I'm creating in the month of May to support you with your photography business. And in this video, we're talking about working as a photographer for... Should you? If you wouldn't pay to put your photographs with your name there, why would you do it for free? Let me share a story with you. A few years ago, I received a phone call, and it was from an agency that I've worked with in the past, and I really liked the people, and the work that they've been doing lately was pretty darn good, and I was pretty excited to get the phone call from them. And when I talked with them, they started talking about a future event that was coming up. And I said, okay, well, I don't do a lot of events anymore, but I'd be happy to do an event for you guys. And then they started to talk about, well, there really isn't a budget for the event, but it could be a great opportunity. You could get some good exposure, and maybe we'll be able to use you in the future for a different assignment that maybe has a little more budget. Well, I politely declined. I mean, these folks know who I am as a photographer. They have seen my work in magazines and on billboards, and I am just as qualified as many of the photographers that they have been hiring at that time. I mean, there's no reason why they couldn't have called me in, but there was a reason, and I'll explain that in a moment. Be sure to check out the next video where I talk about technology and how it's hurt the photography business, yet it's essential to grow your photography business. The fact is, they have me pegged based on what I had done for them years ago. I was the free charity photographer. Now, it doesn't matter what I had done since. If they had a free or cheap event that needed to be covered, you call on Rosh. That was it. That was what you did way back in the day. You know, we all play the game of free, trying to get our foot in the door. But the problem with that quite often is that then you start to build your brand and reputation, and sometimes it's really hard to shake. Now, that doesn't mean you can never work for free, and I'll share how you go about this properly in a few moments. But I really want it to sink in, the fact that every time you accept a job for a really low rate or free, it's your reputation. And the thing is, you think you're getting your foot in the door. And hey, sometimes it actually works, but quite often when that big job comes, when they really need a photographer to come through because their job is on the line, their account is on the line, whatever the reason is they need to hire a photographer, it's really important. Chances are they're not going to go for the cheap photographer, because the last thing they want to do is to explain to people that they went for the cheap photographer when so much was at stake. Yes, there are times when you can photograph for free. However, it needs to be situations that you want to be involved with. I have photographed and still do photograph for charities for free, because they're charities I want to be involved with. They're charities I want to support. Can I write off my time? No, I can't. I do it purely because I appreciate the work they do and I want to support them. And what I do is let them know my value despite the fact that I am giving my work to them at no charge. But that doesn't mean I'm the cheap photographer in their eyes, because here's the thing. When people need a cheap photographer, they ask around to their friends and their colleagues, hey, do you know a cheap photographer? And so they will look through their list of photographers and say, oh yeah, that's the cheap photographer, I will refer them. And so as you develop your book of business and it's all this cheap and free stuff, you're going to be referred to other people who need cheap and free. So I want to avoid that altogether. I don't want to play that game. So what I do is I invoice them. And maybe for a half of a day, I might normally charge, say, sake of argument, $1,500. For some of you, that's high. For some of you, that's low. It doesn't matter. It's just a number. But I'm going to invoice them for $1,500 with a $1,500 credit, which means they don't pay anything. So what do they see? They see my value. And so if somebody asks, hey, can I use that photographer? Do you know a photographer? They may say, yeah, well, he's kind of an expensive photographer. He happens to work with us. It gives us a great deal, but you'll have to work out your own deal with them. In other words, they won't sell for you, because the worst thing you want is a client that you've done free work for selling your services for free. You want them to know. So every time you give a discount, maybe you really do want to get your foot in the door. So what you'll do is you'll show them your full rate and the discount you're offering them for this opportunity. That is a much better way to go. You're not diminishing your value as a photographer, but yet you're still finding and developing the opportunities that many young and beginning photographers need to take to get the foundation, get the ball rolling, get their career going, and get their name out there as a good, high quality photographer. As I mentioned in my last video, which I recommend you check out, we talked about the commodity photographer versus the brand photographer. And you need to develop your brand. And you can't let good opportunities slip by. However, you can't diminish your brand if you want to move forward. Years ago, there was a company that I really wanted to work with, and I finally was able to connect with them and show my portfolio, and the opportunity, the door seemed to be opening. However, the attitude was that I had to work for free to prove myself. And of course, I didn't like that idea, but I didn't want this opportunity to get away. So what did I do? I talked to them about what free meant. How long did free last? What did they need to be satisfied? See, the thing that a lot of photographers do is they just set themselves up for free with the hope that maybe someday something will happen, but they don't have an end game to free. So what I did is I talked about how many assignments that I thought I should do at no charge, and they talked about what they thought I should do at no charge, and we came to an agreement that after a certain point I would be paid. And not only that, we talked about how much I would be paid, because I have value. My work has value. The other photographers that work with them have value, and they're paid. So it was a good idea to come in with a plan, and it worked. And so that's what I'm encouraging you to do. Go in with the plan. Don't just accept free. And when it comes to those great opportunities for exposure, many times you're just going to have to walk away unless, once again, you have a plan. In most cases, you need to look at exposure like advertising. And in most cases, advertising doesn't work just one time. You have to follow the same rules that marketers and advertisers follow when they develop a marketing and advertising plan. And one-time events just rarely do it. It's when people see the repetition, when they see your name and your work over and over again. So could a one-time event work? Yes. If your name and your photographs are going to be shown over and over again, maybe for a year and regularly, that might work out. But you really need to understand how your images are going to be shown, how your name is going to be presented, and where they're going to be showing your work. I mean, there's a lot of factors. You have to look at it the same way that you would look at it if you were actually going to market your work. Give yourself opportunities. Would you pay for these advertising opportunities? And if the answer is no, if you wouldn't pay to put your photographs with your name there, why would you do it for free? And you also have to look at the opportunities which do come over and over again, where maybe you have an opportunity to photograph once a week on a website and your name is there, and you maybe have some creative opportunities and lots of people will see your photographs. One time isn't going to do much for you. However, if you do this week after week after week in a newspaper, magazine, a online blog, or important website somewhere within an industry, I mean, there are many different places that your photographs could be shown where you could get the attention that could help your search engine optimization rankings, as well as just becoming a better known photographer within that specific industry. So once again, ask yourself, For those situations where you're photographing regularly, would you advertise there? And would it be worth you pulling out money and handing it over to those people, because that is what you're doing with your time? As I mentioned, you shouldn't worry about the competition, but you do need to be aware that there is a lot of competition, and sometimes the best way to get in the door is to work for free to prove yourself. But you do need to have a plan, and they do need to know your value. So make sure you know over time you will get paid, how much you'll get paid, and at what point you will be able to have proven yourself to their satisfaction, and let them know along the way by submitting invoices with credit so they don't forget that you are a high-value photographer. I'll see you in the next video.